Adaobi returned to Nigeria after 11 years. Rich, successful, and ready to surprise her father. But what she found that cold Friday night in an empty Onitsha market shattered everything she thought she knew. On a cold Friday night in Onitsha, the market had almost gone silent. Most of the traders had already gone home.
Father, is
The
that
loud
really
voices, the bargaining, the
My
footsteps,
You have
all of
returned.
it had faded into the dark. Only a few bulbs still glowed above the wooden stalls, throwing weak yellow light across the empty paths. Then, a black SUV slowed down near the far end of the market. Inside that car sat Adaobi Naji. 11 years. That was how long she had been away from Nigeria. She had left as a young woman with only one suitcase, a tired mother's blessing in her heart, and a promise she had made to the one man who had sacrificed everything for her, her father. That promise had followed her through every difficult winter abroad, every long shift, every tear she hid from people who thought she was strong. And now she was back. Not broke, not struggling, not the same girl who had left. She was back successful, wealthy, respected. She wanted her return to be a surprise, but that night, before she could even reach home, she saw something from the back seat of the SUV that made her whole body go still. An old man, thin, wrapped in a faded sweater, sitting on a plastic chair near a locked provision shop. A torchlight rested on his lap. A stick leaned beside him. He looked like one of those poor elderly men paid to guard empty stalls through the night because life had become too hard to offer them anything better. Adaobi would have looked away. She would have kept moving. But then the man lifted his head, and the moment the weak bulb touched his face, her heart nearly stopped. It was her father, Pa Naji. The same father she had been sending money to for years. The same father she believed was safe. The same father she had planned to surprise the next morning. For a second, Adaobi forgot how to breathe. "Stop the car," she said. Her driver turned halfway. "Madam?" "I said stop the car, now!" The SUV came to a sharp halt. Before the driver could get out to open the door, Adaobi had already stepped down. Her heels struck the dusty ground, but she did not feel it. She walked forward slowly at first, then faster. The old man by the stall turned toward her, confused by the sudden movement. He squinted into the light. Adobe's lips trembled. "Daddy?" The old man froze. The torchlight slipped from his hand and fell to the floor. For a moment, he stared as if he was looking at someone from a dream. Then his dry lips parted. "Adaobi?" She fell to her knees in front of him. "Daddy, what is this? Why are you here? Why are you sitting in the market at this hour?" Pa Naji tried to rise from the chair, but his legs were weak. Adaobi quickly held him. His hands were cold. Too cold. Up close, she could see how much he had changed. His cheeks had sunk in. His neck bones showed. His palms looked rougher than she remembered. Even his eyes, though still kind, were carrying a tiredness no parent should ever have to wear. "I am fine," he said softly, the way older parents say they are fine, even when life has already swallowed them whole. But Adaobi knew he was not fine. Not even close. Tears rushed to her eyes. "Fine?" she whispered. "Daddy, you were guarding a market stall at night." He looked away in silence. A silence that said more than words could ever say. The driver came closer. "Madam, should I help?" Adaobi stood up immediately. "Yes, open the car, now." She turned back to her father. "You are not staying here one more minute." Pa Naji hesitated. "My daughter, the woman who owns this shop." "I said no." Her voice shook, not from disrespect, but from pain. "You are coming with me." He looked at her again, properly this time, as if he still could not believe she was real. Then, slowly, without another word, he nodded. Inside the SUV, Adaobi sat beside him in silence. Her father kept stealing small glances at her face, almost like he was afraid she would disappear. She held his hand tightly. But inside her, questions were already beginning to burn, because nothing about this made sense. For years, she had been sending money home. At first, it was small amounts. Back then, she was only a cleaner in Manchester, working 2 shifts most days. There were months when her body nearly gave up, but even then, she sent something. When things finally changed for her, the money increased. A lot. She built her own logistics company from almost nothing. Then, 1 contract became 3. 3 became 10. By the time she was financially stable, she made a decision she never regretted. Her father would never suffer again. Every month, without fail, money left her account for his feeding, medication, house repairs, clothing, and general comfort. When the old family house began falling apart, she sent extra. When she decided to buy land in his name and build him a proper bungalow, she sent even more. And because her father did not understand phones, banking apps, or city paperwork, Adaobi had been sending everything through her cousin, Ngozi. Ngozi was the daughter of Adaobi's late aunt. She was family. Trusted family. She lived closer to Pa Naji. She always answered her calls. She always sounded concerned. She always said the same thing. "Don't worry, cousin. Uncle is okay. Don't stress yourself. I just checked on him. He even prayed for you today. He is eating well. The building work is moving." Every single time, Adaobi believed her. Now, seated beside her father in that car, she felt something terrible pressing against her chest. Not fear. Not confusion. Betrayal. The SUV stopped at a private clinic nearby. Adaobi did not waste time. Her father protested that he was only tired, but she ignored him and paid for immediate tests, treatment, and observation. While nurses helped him inside, she stood at the reception desk trying to steady her breathing. The nurse returned after some minutes. "Madam, he is weak and underfed, but we have started treatment. His blood pressure is high. He needs rest." Underfed. Adaobi shut her eyes for a moment. Underfed. That one word hit her harder than anything else. How could the father she had been providing for be underfed? Later that night, when he had been cleaned up and placed on a hospital bed, she sat beside him. He looked more comfortable now, but the shock had not left his face. "My daughter," he said quietly, "you really came back." Adaobi forced a smile. "Yes, Daddy. I came back." He studied her again. "You look well?" She nodded. "I am well." There was a pause. Then Pa Naji asked a question that turned the whole night upside down. "So, when did things become better for you?" Adaobi frowned. "What do you mean?" He shifted slightly on the bed. "Ngozi told me your business failed some years ago. She said you were managing your own life with difficulty. She said that is why the money stopped." Adaobi stared at him. "The money stopped?" "Yes," he replied. For a long time. How long? He thought carefully. Maybe 4 years. Adaobi felt as if the room had tilted. No, she said. No, Daddy. That is not possible. He looked confused. My daughter, I did not want to disturb you. I thought maybe life had become difficult again. I kept praying for you. Adaobi leaned forward. Daddy, listen to me carefully. I never stopped sending money. Not for 1 month. Not once. Her father blinked. For a second, neither of them spoke. Then he whispered, What? Adaobi swallowed hard. I sent money every single month. For food, for your medicines, for repairs. And 2 years ago, I started sending large amounts for the land and your new house. Pa Naji slowly sat up straighter. My new house? Yes. He shook his head in confusion. What house? Adaobi's fingers curled. She brought out her phone. Her hands were no longer steady. She opened her gallery and started scrolling through the photos Ngozi had sent over the past 2 years. Foundation pictures, blocks rising, roofing, windows, interior tiling, painting. Every image had looked believable. Every caption had sounded sincere. See? Adaobi said, showing him the screen. Ngozi said this was your house. She said the land was bought in your name. She said the workers were almost done. Pa Naji looked at the phone for a long time. Single-speaker male narration in James' voice. Read slightly fast with minimal pauses, smooth flow, tight phrasing, and strong emotional control. Keep it immersive, cinematic, and dramatic, without changing speaker or breaking into dialogue voices. Then he lifted his eyes slowly. My daughter, he said, voice breaking. I have never seen this house before in my life. Adaobi sat back like someone had struck her. The silence between them grew heavy. Not normal silence. The kind of silence that enters a room when truth finally removes its mask. The next morning, after her father was discharged, Adaobi did not take him home. She no longer knew what home even meant. Instead, she booked a serviced apartment in a quiet part of town, fully paid in advance, with meals, security, and a private nurse on standby. She bought him fresh clothes, new slippers, a warm wrapper, toothbrushes, medication. Small things that should have already been in his life. As they entered the apartment, Pa Naji stopped in the living room and looked around slowly. Everything was neat. Clean curtains, soft chairs, a television mounted on the wall, food warming in covered dishes. Peace. His eyes filled with tears. Adaobi, he said, all this is for me? She nodded. For you. He sat down gently, as if afraid the place was too fine for him. Then he looked at his daughter and shook his head. I thought you forgot me. That was the first moment Adaobi broke down. She knelt before him and held his knees like a child. Daddy, never say that again. Never. He placed a trembling hand on her head, and both of them cried. But Adobe's tears did not last long, because pain was already making room for something else. Action. That same afternoon, she took 2 steps. First, she called Ngozi. No answer. She called again. Nothing. She sent a message. I am in Nigeria. Call me now. Still nothing. Second, she asked her lawyer, who was already in Lagos for another matter, to connect her immediately with a property investigator in Anambra. By evening, she had one more shock waiting for her. The location attached to the supposed land documents did exist, but the land was not in Pa Naji's name, and there was no bungalow under construction there. Instead, the file showed a suspicious transfer to a company linked to one man, Ngozi's husband, Emeka Okafor. Adaobi sat in the apartment balcony that night with the printout in her hand. The breeze moved the curtains softly behind her. Inside, her father was asleep after dinner, but Adaobi could not sleep. She read the paper again and again. Company transfer. Agent signature. Power of attorney. Witness stamp. There were too many layers. This was not careless spending. This was planned deception. The next day, she said nothing to her father. She only smiled, served him breakfast, and told him she had a few things to settle in town. Then she left with her lawyer. The investigation moved faster than Adaobi expected. Money trail, bank transfers, multiple withdrawals, fake receipts, edited construction images lifted from another building project in Asaba. By the third day, they had enough to understand the pattern. The monthly upkeep money had stopped reaching Pa Naji 4 years earlier. The housing funds had been diverted almost immediately after each transfer. Ngozi's husband had used part of the money to expand his electronics shop. Another part had gone into a half-finished duplex in his brother's name. And the cruelest part of all was this. While Adaobi believed her father was being prepared for a comfortable new home, the old man had been pushed out of his rented room after months of unpaid bills. He had started sleeping in a church corridor some nights. On others, traders let him sit near their stalls until morning in exchange for watching over goods. That was how her father had become a night guard. Not because no one loved him, but because the people trusted to protect him had sold his dignity piece by piece. Adaobi clenched her jaw. She did not scream. She did not curse. Her anger became cold. And cold anger is usually the most dangerous kind. Since Ngozi was avoiding every direct call, Adaobi changed her strategy. Through one of her staff members, she arranged a fake business meeting. The message sent to Ngozi was simple. A wealthy returnee is looking for a trusted local supplier for a chain of home decor stores. A first contract could be worth millions. Meeting at 6 p.m. at the Castle Hotel. Ngozi responded within 10 minutes. That evening, Adaobi arrived early. She wore a plain navy dress, nothing flashy, nothing dramatic. Her lawyer sat at another table. A recorder was already active in her bag. At exactly 6:18 p.m., Ngozi walked in, well-dressed, makeup done, expensive handbag, confident smile. Adaobi watched her from across the room and felt something inside her go quiet. This was the woman who had been telling her, month after month, that her father was fine. The woman sat down, checking her phone. Then Adaobi stood up and walked toward her. At first, Ngozi did not notice, but the moment she looked up, the color drained from her face. Adaobi? Yes, Adaobi said calmly, pulling out the chair opposite her. Me. Ngozi opened and closed her mouth. I was going to call you. Really? Yes, I just... Save it. Ngozi swallowed. People around them kept eating, talking, laughing softly. But at that table, the air had changed. Adaobi leaned forward, I found my father 3 nights ago. Ngozi's eyes flickered. Adaobi continued. I found him alone, in the market, working as a night guard. Ngozi looked down. No, Adaobi said sharply. Look at me. Slowly, Ngozi obeyed. Tell me where the money went. Ngozi's lips trembled. Adaobi, it is not what you think. Then what is it? She said nothing. Adaobi took out her phone and placed it on the table. Then another paper. Then another. Transfer histories, screenshots, land records, construction image source matches. She slid them forward one by one. I have been sending money for years, Adaobi said. My father said he stopped receiving it 4 years ago. I sent more for land, more for building, more for finishing, more for furnishing. So I am asking you once, where did it go? Ngozi's eyes filled with tears. But Adaobi was not moved, because some tears come too late. Finally, Ngozi spoke. It started with my husband. Adaobi said nothing. Ngozi continued in a shaking voice. When your business became successful and the money increased, I told him only small things at first. I should never have done that. But he began asking questions. Then he started taking from it. He said we would replace it before Uncle noticed. He said it was temporary. Adaobi's face remained still. Temporary? She repeated. Ngozi cried harder. It got worse. His shop was failing. He had debts. He said if I didn't cooperate, he would throw me and the children out. Then your land money came. He told me it was our chance to rise. He brought papers. He brought one agent. He said it would all be sorted before you returned. And my father? Ngozi covered her mouth. Adaobi's voice hardened. And my father? Ngozi shook her head helplessly. I kept telling myself I would fix it. I would send something. I would visit him. I would explain later. But shame kept growing. Every lie needed another lie. Adaobi stared at her. You watched an old man starve so you could protect your comfort. Ngozi burst into tears. It was not comfort. My marriage was falling apart. There was pressure from everywhere. Emeka was threatening me every day. I was trapped. Trapped? Adaobi asked. Did Trap stop you from answering my calls? Did Trap force you to send fake building pictures? Did Trap make you lie that my father was praying for me while he was sleeping in church corridors? Ngozi lowered her head completely. There was no answer for that. After a long silence, Adaobi stood up. Come. Ngozi looked up in fear. Where? To see him. No, please, not like this. Exactly like this. An hour later, they were inside the service department. Pa Naji was seated in the sitting room, wearing one of the new kaftans Adaobi had bought for him. He looked tired, but calmer than before. When Ngozi entered and saw him, she began to cry immediately. She fell to her knees. Uncle. Pa Naji looked at her for a long moment. Then he asked the simplest question in the world. Why? Ngozi broke. She confessed everything. The monthly money, the lies, the land, the fake building updates, the fear of scandal, the greed, the delay, the shame, the husband's pressure, the debts, the silent cruelty of letting things continue even when she knew an old man was suffering. Pa Naji listened without interrupting. When she finished, the room went still. Then he spoke in a voice so tired it was more painful than shouting. If you had stolen from me alone, maybe I would have forgiven faster. But you stole peace from your own heart, too. Ngozi wept harder. Adaobi stood near the window, arms folded, struggling to hold back the rage still burning inside her. Then her father said something neither woman expected. Crying will not repair what is broken. Ngozi slowly raised her head. Pa Naji looked at Adaobi. My daughter, do what is right. Not revenge, not anger. What is right. That was all he said, and that was enough. The next morning, Adaobi moved. Police report, bank petition, property fraud complaint, elder neglect statement, forgery investigation. Her lawyer handled the paperwork with speed. Ngozi, terrified by the direction of events, finally cooperated fully. She gave written statements, transaction records, access details, and names of the people her husband used. By midday, the case was no longer a family quarrel. It was criminal. Emeka tried to deny everything at first. Then he tried to blame Ngozi. Then he claimed the funds were gifts. But documents do not cry, and transfers do not forget. Within days, authorities froze linked accounts. The electronics shop was sealed pending investigation. The suspicious property transfer was challenged, and Emeka was arrested alongside the land agent who processed the fraudulent papers. News spread quietly through the extended family. Some people called Adaobi harsh. Some called her brave. Some said such matters should stay inside the family. But Adaobi had no patience for that old lie. A crime does not become holy just because blood is involved. While the legal process moved on, Adaobi focused on the part that mattered most: her father. She rented a better house first. Not temporary, not borrowed. A real house. 2 bedrooms, good compound, steady water, a small garden in front. Then she did something even more meaningful. She rebuilt the one thing life had stolen from him long before money disappeared: his pride. Years earlier, Pa Naji had been known for his skilled hands. He repaired furniture, carved doors, and made stools so strong they lasted for generations. Age had slowed him, but not erased him. So Adaobi converted the front space of the new house into a modest workshop. Nothing stressful. Just enough for him to sit, teach, and do light work when he felt strong enough. The day he saw the tools arranged neatly on the wall, he touched one hammer and smiled quietly. I thought this part of my life had ended, he said. Adaobi smiled back. No, Daddy. It only paused. Little by little, peace returned. He ate better. He slept better. His shoulders relaxed. His laughter, once missing, started coming back in small pieces. Sometimes he sat outside in the evening and simply watched the compound gate, as if he still could not believe he no longer needed to survive the night in a market. As for Ngozi, things were different. She did not escape consequences. Though her cooperation mattered, it did not erase what she had done. She was publicly shamed within the family. Some relatives cut ties. Her children had to move temporarily to her mother's place while the case unfolded. But something honest had finally entered her life. Responsibility. For the first time in years, she stopped hiding behind excuses. One afternoon, weeks later, she came to see Pa Naji again. This time, There were no expensive clothes, no confident posture, no fake updates. Just a tired woman carrying the weight of what she had become. She sat before him and said, "If you never forgive me, I will understand. But I want to live differently from now on." Pa Naji looked at her for a long time. Then he said, "Forgiveness is not the same as trust." Ngozi nodded through tears. "I know." He added, "If your life changes, let it change because truth entered it, not because you were caught." That sentence stayed with her. Months later, the court proceedings reached a conclusion. Fraud, misappropriation, forgery, financial exploitation. Emeka was convicted on multiple counts. Restitution was ordered. The fraudulent land process was reversed, and though not every naira was recovered, enough was returned to restore what had been violently delayed. When it was finally over, Adaobi stood outside the courthouse and looked up at the sky. She expected to feel victory. Instead, she felt something quieter. Relief. Because justice does not always sound like celebration. Sometimes it sounds like a door closing on a chapter that should never have been written. Back home, Pa Naji was seated under the evening shade when Adaobi arrived. He looked at her face and understood immediately. "It is finished?" he asked. She nodded. "Yes, Daddy. It is finished." He leaned back and closed his eyes, not dramatically, just gently, like a man setting down a load he had carried for too long. That Sunday, after church, a few neighbors visited the new house. Some brought fruit, some brought bread. Some came just to greet the elderly man everyone had thought was forgotten. Pa Naji sat among them, clean and dignified, wearing white. Adaobi watched from the doorway, and in that moment she understood something many successful people learn too late. Sending money is not the same as staying connected. Love must be checked. Care must be confirmed. Presence still matters. Because evil often hides in places we call family. That night, after everyone had gone, father and daughter sat outside together. The air was calm. A generator hummed somewhere in the distance. Pa Naji looked at Adaobi and smiled. "You kept your promise." Adobe's eyes softened. "I came late." He shook his head. "But you came." She held his hand. No more words were needed. If there is one lesson in this story, it is this. Never assume the people you help are truly receiving that help, just because someone you trust says so. Ask questions. Check deeper. Call again. Show up if you can. Because silence can hide suffering. And sometimes the person you are working hardest to protect is only one lie away from losing everything. If Adaobi had not returned when she did, maybe her father would have spent many more nights under those market bulbs, pretending life was still manageable. But truth has a way of arriving, and when it does, everyone must answer to it. So tell me, if you were Adaobi, would you have forgiven Ngozi after everything she did? And if you were Pa Naji, would you have chosen peace first or punishment first? Drop your answer in the comments. If this story touched you, share it with someone who needs the reminder that family love should never be blind. And if you want more powerful African stories filled with emotion, truth, betrayal, and justice, subscribe and turn on the notification bell, because the next story might leave you speechless.